My name is Tonya Curry, and this is this week's Acumen Media Report. It's entitled Daylight Robbery, a Country on Autopilot. Jumping, galloping media. That's one way to describe a rampant week in the media. At one point, I put my head in my hands, not because of the narrative from the anchor, not at all. I'd silenced her because I couldn't deal with what she was reporting. Let me read the headlines first before you accost my ears. I was reading that ticker strap line at the bottom of the television screen. I have to build myself up for these reports, you don't rush headlong into the terrifying narrative without having great courage. My dear South Africa, is it time for our Arab Spring? Tragedy after tragedy, turmoil after turmoil, murder after murder, rape after rape, corruption after corruption after more corruption, media manipulation after human and legal manipulation, and then some small but strong voices urging us forward to create leadership. I'd watched comrade after comrade tell us how wonderful the late Jessie Duarte was, and I had decided that my day was done until Thabo Mbeki took to the microphone. These types of memorials are always political, and I'm reminded of the Katrada Memorial, where we finally took down our rotten king. So I waited. He has always been a great orator, Mbeki. Perhaps not a great president, but by what standard? But a great orator. He said that the ANC has been promising to self-rectify for years, that the country is on autopilot heading for a crash without anyone noticing that the plane is on a direct collision course. On autopilot, indeed. That was the word we've been searching for, and while chaos erupts around us, we humbled and weary citizens keep on pushing in one direction. He went on to say that there is no leadership, and there is no great plan to save South Africa, that the place is a hot mess. Earlier in the week, we had seen Suleiman say it the same way, and then Jonathan Jansen said it too. We are on autopilot. Mbeki said we have a situation that may result in an Arab Spring. These great speakers told us that there were 65 million of us. That's one massive number, and yet we are still talking about potholes, railways, Eskom, murder, rape, and those hungry mouths of corruption and poverty, the social environments that are disgusting, unemployment and fuel hikes. When will we stand up? When will we have our South African spring? Let's take down our rotten leadership and open our arms to the big and small voices that are amongst us. Why don't we pull a Sri Lanka and go and swim in the president's former and current palatial homes, roll around on their beds? Jessie Duarte's death was filled with controversy as Lindiwe Sisulu said that she sought cancer treatment in Russia, but by the time she arrived home, it was too late. That's true. Ace Magashule used the opportunity to say Duarte had explosive secrets. Have you made them up yet, Ace? How insensitive, how crass. How are you still playing leader? As for our sitting president, not seated, those dollars in the sofa have taken over the media platforms to such a degree that there are entire sections on news media websites highlighting Phala farm issue. What does he have to say about that pesky step-aside rule and his couch? Well, Ramaphosa said he is the president of this country and he is firm in his seat. We don't want you firm in your seat, sir. We don't want an uncle in the furniture business. We've had him for decades. We want you to stand up and walk with your country again. Lead. But your speeches have dried up. Your military uniform is filled with dust, and your shoulders are so heavy that we won't even bother to ask you for help. Keep sitting while 15 robbers walk into Benoni Mall in broad daylight, armed like the Ukraine. Makwabane has been impeached, and just like her chum Zuma, she's come back to work and claimed our money as her entitlement to play Stalingrad, a tactic favoured by our favourite advocate Mpofu. I still don't understand how this guy is even in the legal profession when he's clearly just a politician. He doesn't even ask proper questions. I wonder if Mr. Mbeki can help him with his grammar. Suspended Makhubane is costing us 130,000 rand per day with her attempts to get Ramaphosa to testify. The fight is so blatant. Why do we allow this? Be honest. You're done with the political vomit, right? I mean, even the judge wasn't having any of it, and he told Mpofe to wipe the vomit off the corner of his mouth and ask a proper question to Kakane. He stood firm, Al Kakane, and he was clear in his stance, adding, I felt that I needed to report misconduct which I'd observed at the Office of the Public Protector. South African Spring? The optimist in me, yes, there is one, can see, though through peripheral vision, that they are falling from grace, aren't they? That's why there's all this chaos around us. Look at Zandile Gumede, such a piece of work. She destroyed eThekwini, a shameless crook who is as dangerous as she is lavishly dressed. She says there is no case because she wasn't an executive mayor. I'm sorry, what? You're standing with 21 co-accused for stealing millions, maybe even billions from KZN, and you think you need executive rights to be tried in a courtroom? Daylight robbery. Autopilot. Staying with KZN, the race for leadership has become so messy that the RET faction is referred to as the Taliban. I never make these things up, guys. This is the news. Ridiculous. Zungu, the owner of Amazulu Football Club, is running against my personal worst human, Sihle Zikalale, and others. Well, you might as well, Zungu. Your narrative is that there's been an overwhelming sense of discomfort about the manner with which the step-aside rule is being administered. So with those words, I must agree with you. You are a perfect candidate. Autopilot and daylight robbery. Talking about daylight robbery, did you see what happened with the digital vibes theft? You remember the one where Zweli Mkhize and his family were implicated? Are you ready for this essay? The justice? A bunch of disciplinary hearings, demotions, and resignations. And that's all, folks. No money back, no accountability at all. Anban Pillay got suspended for 3 months and a salary demotion. What happened to Zweli and his family again? Autopilot. This is a new trick, disciplinary hearings. It's been rolled out at PRASA for 44 employees that stole money and then another 33 that were suspended. Some may be fired, but that's all, folks. Daylight robbery. PRASA paid billions for trains that were too tall, and today we are told they shrank. All this locomotive breath reminds me a bit of Chairman Mao's rhetoric, his ridiculous comments. Mao told his country that they could grow tomatoes as big as houses, and people went back to their land to toil the soil that delivered nothing but rotten tomatoes and corpses. Daylight robbery indeed. Gordon has been out and about for a change. This time, he was asking for trade unions for CVs as a bloated Eskom HR department at the failed electricity provider calls for critical skills. Daylight robbery. In 2019, he was given a list of 705 names with perfect skills, and then nada, nothing, unfazed, just like our electricity, and on autopilot. If you will, he gave a speech at Wits, and then the room erupted with paid disruptors, screaming profanity and jumping on tables. Gordon was still saying that he would not be intimidated when he was whisked away by security. Autopilot. I've so much more to tell you, but I only have so many words. The murderers. Oh, my South Africa, the murderers. One after another, and the one more heinous than the next. Sabantu, the triple murder of 3 generations of women, raped not once but several times, a murder most foul. He got 5 life sentences. And Ndlovu's face was much like our leadership, 0 remorse, on autopilot. The case of the murder of granddaughter and grandfather Hessen Latagan wrapped up. The judge said the killer van Boven had left the court without any respect whatsoever for the right to life, dignity and safety of other persons and their property. 2 life terms for him. Imagine he strangled her grandfather with a belt until the veins in his face burst, all for the sake of 2 TVs and a couple of devices. Daylight murder and robbery. The Kestel murders saw 2 men accused of brutally killing 7 people on a farm. A man from Ermelo was arrested for deliberately driving his car over 2 children and trying to kill a third. All this happened in the same week as Mandela Day. Normally it would be the top story. Not a chance. We're too busy with daylight robberies. Interest rates were hiked and lending is now sitting at 9%. Baleka Mbete and Nati Mtetwa say that we need a cleansing. Ain't that the truth? Didi Mabuza is on the warpath starting defamation cases against those who accused him of political killings. Baragwanath spends 3 million on fuel for generators to keep our sick alive. We still don't know why 21 children died in a tavern, and please don't make me talk about Senzo Mayiwe's case. There are too many of these daylight robberies, these murders most foul. I have one really big and wonderful story to end with, though. Banyana Banyana. They have stormed through to the semi-finals of the World Cup. We need this, ladies. Bring it home. Thank you for showing that we are still a nation filled with great courage and tenacity. I end with a quote from Mandela. I'm a fundamental optimist. Whether that comes from nature or nurture, I cannot say. Part of being optimistic is keeping one's head pointed to the sun and one's feet moving forward. I'm Tonya Curry, and you've just scratched the surface with Acumen Media. Hey, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You better.